When Donald Trump says to the world, well, we're going to negotiate a better deal, I mean, you know, he's going to go out and find a better deal. That's like O.J. Simpson saying he's going to go out and find the real killer. Everybody knows he isn't going to do that because he doesn't believe in it. Because if he did believe in it, you wouldn't pull out of Paris.
Well, joining us now, commentary associate editor Noah Rothman, and in Washington, commentary editor for the Washington Examiner, and a visiting fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Tim Carney. Good to have you both with us this morning.
I want to start by asking you guys about the news of the day. So far this morning, Donald Trump in a tweet storm saying don't listen to General Kelly, don't listen to everybody in the White House, but the travel ban is actually a full-blown travel ban.
Yeah, you could hear the heads in the Department of Justice popping with shock over that one. This strikes me as, we were just talking about this Susan Glazer piece in Politico about the striking of the language in the speech about Article 5 in NATO, where it was in there. They wanted it in there. Somebody struck it, either the president or Steve Bannon or Stephen Miller. And it seems like every time this administration gets into real trouble, it's because they listen to somebody over in what they call the Bannon wing.
Right. And Tim Carney, I've been saying for the past couple of weeks that any other president other than Donald Trump would have had this so-called travel ban affirmed by the Supreme Court. Not even 5-4, but maybe 6-3, because immigration and border control are two areas that the Supreme Court defer the most to the president. And they cleaned it up. They cleaned the language up right. And now Donald Trump has spent this morning making the work of a Solicitor General that much more difficult.
No, it is. So the Constitution and federal law clearly gives the president the ability to temporarily restrict entry from some countries for the sake of national security. It's pretty unambiguous. And the only argument they have against Trump doing this is that the intention was discriminatory. And sometimes you can say, well, how do they know the intention? Are they reading his mind? Well, now they're just reading his tweets.
Well, and Mark, what I said on Friday and Thursday and Wednesday is, you can't go back to December 2015 and say, oh, well, there's a Muslim ban, because they cleaned it up. But he has soiled it this morning in a way that, again, I don't know how the Justice Department, which he's attacking, I don't know how the Solicitor General cleans it up in front of the Supreme Court.
If John Roberts was looking for a way to avoid the deference that Tim referred to, which is true, deference to the president on these issues, these tweets give John Roberts a way to say the intent of this is clear because the president's made it clear. Now,
it looks like Roberts and probably Kennedy, will rule against this, because it is, the president has said on June the 5th, 2017, it's a travel ban. And so then Donald Trump gets what he wants. Another punchline at another rally, at another event, and yet nothing gets done.
Well, that's what I was speculating. I mean, it's impossible to read the president's mind, right? But isn't it politically more beneficial for him to have this martyred by the courts and have the nationalist wing of the party play victim and really, get energized by that?
But isn't that a 38% plan? I mean, isn't that a 38%, like Steve Bannon's hardened 38% strategy?
I'm not sure, but it's certainly, that 38% has served him well so far. He's been able to deflect attention from the policies that haven't managed to been affected, and certainly distract from the lack of anything coming out of Congress. So I don't know. I mean, it's something that has kept him, well served so far.
So Tim Carney, a lot of conservatives I know, not conservatives, a lot of Trump supporters that I know, let me correct myself, are nonplussed by everything that's happened. They still stand by Donald Trump. They still stand by their man, so to speak. I want to float Mark Halpern's theory out that they will continue standing by Donald Trump until they turn around and look back a year or two later and see that legislation hasn't been passed. These executive orders haven't been implemented. Do you believe that if there is going to be a separation of some of these supporters, it'll be if he gets nothing done?
In part, yes. So I've been all around the country, went to the Trump rallies everywhere from, Iowa to New Hampshire, down across to the West Coast. And a lot of just the regular supporters, not the people here inside the Beltway, not the people up there in New York. They wanted somebody who was going to fight against the insider elites and Trump is doing that.
Yeah.
You know, that even when he's losing, when he's going to the courts, he is fighting for them. They see a rigged system where the insiders are getting rich and they are not. And that's all the sort of economic inequality data. That's all the fact that federal government is getting more power away from the states and the local governments. Local communities are dissolving, and they see insider elites are stealing my stuff, and somebody's going to fight for me. And just that, I mean, that's what all politicians promise. This is what Al Gore promised. This is what Obama, I'm going to fight for you. Just that he's out there doing it makes them happy. On the other hand, there is a smaller slice that really is policy oriented, and for them it's the wall. I know a lot of people, Ann Coulter's a famous one of them, but I know a lot of people said, I voted for him because he was going to put up a wall. And if he backs off of that, if he says, well, we decided it's better to do X, Y, and Z, and this is, you know, my DOJ explaining it, that's where he could lose that. But that sort of policy-oriented part is always going to be a minority of his base.
And take away a lot of their health care as they see it. Nick, a lot of my family members are still solidly behind Donald Trump, and what they say is, you guys are all after him, and he gave us Gorsuch.
Right.
That's good enough for us.
I think he has a lot of running room for his core base, and the reason is I think the essence of his politics is the fight. It is the rage. I think that when we, on this set, when we're angry at something he does, or we complain, or the media complains, and even when there are headlines saying Washington is in chaos, things can't get done, I think among his core support, that's all a good thing.
I want to talk to Noah and Jay quickly here. Noah, you had a great tweet after Paris. And it's always so interesting. People see me attacking Donald Trump for going after the courts, for tearing apart our 60-year alliances. And then I will tweet something conservative, or God forbid, a Bible verse, and their heads blow up. And it's almost like they wait a second. You're a conservative? And you tweeted something right after Paris saying that a lot of your liberal friends shocked that you can be against Trump and still be a conservative.
Right, when he does conservative things, which is not often, but it happens occasionally, and then you're supposed to say, okay, well, this is a conservative thing, and we like to encourage that. The removal from the Paris Agreement was one thing. His proposed budget, which is a political document, but it was also something that had some conservative priorities, including some entitlement reforms. I mean, and his appointments. These are the things that conservatives should appreciate. So when the left said, you know, you guys should man the battlements with us because you elected somebody you opposed, it's not being inconsistent to say when he does conservative things that we appreciate this and encourage more of it.
And Jay, that's Tim. Did I say Jay again? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tim,
no relation.
My apologies. I know.
relation.
And I never thought there was any relations there. So, Tim, talk about that, being a conservative in the age of Trump and sorting through it, and people, again, somehow Trumpism being confused with conservatism.
And it can be tiring, but where you're getting beat up by sort of people who have moved over to the Trump side and just say, you have to support this guy. Dennis Prager put that up. But then there's what I call the anti-Trump. Now, that's three antis, and that's the people who are saying, oh, well, you're giving Trump ammunition when he does the bad stuff every time you support him when he does the good stuff, the conservative stuff. Gorsuch, some of the stuff in the budget, some of the there's federal agencies he wants to abolish. All this stuff is great, but the way to approach this is like a journalist, right? That we should try not to judge the man unless we're sort of talking about his psychology or something like that. And there's a lot to talk about there. But his actions we should judge as they are actions. This is one of my points about the travel ban originally. Is the Constitution and federal law seems to give him the authority to do that. Gorsuch is an amazing appointee, regardless of who put him up there. And stuff in the budget, I like Mick Mulvaney at OMB, and a lot of the stuff in that budget was really good. Some of it didn't go far enough or was clearly sort of hocus pocus. Call it as you see it. As a journalist, you're given the tools to judge the actions separate from the man.
Right, and that's why I was saying what I was saying last week about the so-called travel ban, because the court should have upheld it. Except this morning, the president has once again undercut himself. By the way, I keep saying Jay also because I've got Jay Caruso on my mind. He's going to be coming at 8:30. Wrote a great piece for The Atlantic talking about why conservatives are still...
He went to Trump country
are not
5 months later.
I'm sorry, why Trumpists are still sticking by Donald Trump. We'll get comments from Richard Haas when we come back.
Tim Carney, thank you.
Tim, thank you so much.
Noah Rothman, stay with us if you can.